that is Introduction to BA. So we have completed all these slides. Let me directly go to module number 1. Okay. So our module number 1 is first history and origin of a business analyst. So here I am going to explain something brief about the BA and what are the roles and responsibilities and what are the do's and don'ts. So before going to that, I want to explain you like how the role of BA emerged in the IT industry. Okay, so it was before 1980s where there was no role of BA in the IT industry. Okay, so before 1980s, how the process was in the IT industry was like the client was giving directly requirements to the developers, and the developers were developing the requirements without doing any requirement analysis or without identifying the proper solution to the problem. So there was no proper channel. It means there was no proper a role to perform to convert the paper data into electronic form. Okay, so whatever the clients, whatever the requirements that were given by the client, they were directly putting into the system. They were not maintaining any documentation because there was no role to perform administrative task. Okay, and there was no proper universal language in the sense so that is whatever the client was giving the requirements, so all this, there was no documentation and there was no language which was understood by each and every software industry software employee. So directly the developer was putting each and everything whatever the client was giving requirements without doing any analysis or without doing any enterprise analysis techniques or without doing whether those requirements are essential for the project or not. Okay, so as a result what was happening was there was a more percentage of project failure. That means uh, only the 25% of the projects were getting success. That means if a company is getting 10 projects in a year, only 2 to 3 projects were getting success, and rest of the 7 to 8 projects were getting failure because of all these problems. So the IT industry analyzed all these problems and they have emerged the role of business analyst after 1980s. Okay, so if you see this slide, you will come to know like what are the how the miscommunication is going between different departments. Actually, this is what exactly the client required. That is a tire tied to a rope to a tree. But the client is also unable to explain as it is to the IT company. He was explaining to the IT company in this way. The first image. And in the second image shows how the project leader understood that particular client's project. Okay, and after that the project leader was explaining to the designing team in this way, which you are seeing in the third image. Okay, when it comes to programmer, he was writing the programmer in this way. So there is a difference between each and every image. It means that there is miscommunication flowing from one department to another department. And if you see here, this is how the sales executive described it. Obviously, the sales executive is going to describe more than what they have. Okay. So if you see this slide, that is how the project was documented. So there was no documentation at all. So there was no administrative task performing. Okay. And after that, this is what operations installed. So nothing operations has been installed, and the project was how the customer was billed. So he was billed very high cost. And if it comes to help desk, there is no support with the help desk. So there was a miscommunication flowing between each and every department because there was no coordination between one department to another department. Okay, so the IT industry has realized all these problems and they have emerged the role of BA after 1980s. So after 1980s, when the role of BA emerged, the main responsibility of the BA is to liaise between the client and the developer. So he is going to take the requirements from the clients and he is going to put those requirements in a universal language which is understood by each and every IT employee who is working as a software engineer, and he is going to do a requirement analysis and he is going to identify the correct solution. Okay, these are some of the main responsibilities of a BA. So he is going to develop the relationship with each and every stakeholder. That means he is going to communicate with all the stakeholders. So he is going to gather the requirements, whatever that are required for the project for each and every stakeholder. Okay. So after 1980s, the IT industry observed that the success ratio of projects is very high. So before 1980s, it was 25% is the success ratio, but after 1980s, the success ratio was increased to 75%. Okay, and rest of the 25%, why these projects are getting failure in the sense the IT industry analyzed that and they came to know that this is because of client's problem. That is, the client was dropping in the middle of the project or he is unable to provide financial source for the projects. Okay, so this is how the role of a BA emerged in the IT industry.